This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple's back in the spotlight over CSAM. Rivian explains why you can't have CarPlay. And Apple TV Plus may be tightening its purse strings. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management, your solution for mobile device and identity and access management. Learn more at onepassword.com/product/XAM. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Apple is catching more heat for not employing CSAM detection. Anyway, that's one way to look at it. Another would be to say that Apple's catching more heat for safeguarding the privacy of its users. The Guardian ran a piece Monday saying the UK's National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, or NSPCC, accuses Apple of vastly undercounting how often child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, appears in its products. In the year, child predators used Apple's iCloud, iMessage, and FaceTime to store and exchange CSAM in a higher number of cases in England and Wales alone than the company reported across all other countries combined, according to police data obtained by the NSPCC. In England and Wales, the number was said to be 337 in 2023. Worldwide, Apple reported just 267 incidents of suspected CSAM on its platforms to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The Guardian went straight to my first thought, pointing out that iMessage is an encrypted messaging service, meaning Apple is unable to see the contents of users' messages. But, says the report, so is Meta's WhatsApp, which made roughly 1.4 million reports of suspected CSAM in 2023. I'm curious how they did that if all the messages sent through WhatsApp are encrypted. Of course, that's not the part that worries the NSPCC. The Guardian had Richard Collard, head of child safety online policy at the organization, saying there is a concerning discrepancy between the number of UK child abuse image crimes taking place on Apple services and the almost negligible number of global reports of abuse content they make to authorities. Apple is clearly behind many of their peers in tackling child sexual abuse when all tech firms should be investing in safety and preparing for the rollout of the Online Safety Act in the UK. Collard uses that concern to question whether Apple should be doing anything in artificial intelligence. The piece has Collard saying the race to roll out Apple AI is worrying when AI-generated child abuse material is putting children at risk and impacting the ability of police to safeguard young victims, especially as Apple pushed back embedding technology to protect children. He went on to say the company is moving ahead to a territory that we know could be incredibly detrimental and dangerous to children without the track record of being able to handle it. Not surprisingly, Apple declined to comment for the report. According to the piece, the company instead directed The Guardian to a statement it made last August, in which it said it had decided not to proceed with a program scanning iCloud photos for CSAM because it instead chose a path that prioritizes the security and privacy of its users. I'm pretty sure it said more than that, but you do you, Guardian. You do you. Apple has updated its sports app, now with games. I'm kidding. It's kind of stupid, though. Why does news get games and sports just gets more sports? Seems like putting games in sports would make more sense, but what do I know? Anyway, a piece from Mac Rumors says Apple has updated its sports app, now with more sports. Monday's update is said to bring Major League Baseball pitching data, as well as support for Leagues Cup soccer action, which the report says is coming up just days from now. The sports app is free. The updated version 1.5 is available now in the App Store. It is an idea several hundred years in the making whose time has finally come. Mac Rumor says Apple Music Classical has added a classical top 100 chart. According to the report, the list features the most popular classical music albums that are streamed globally, combining 5 data sources from more than 165 countries. Top 100 comes from Apple Music Classical Streams, Apple Music Streams, iTunes downloads, iTunes song sales, and Shazam tags. Running down the top 5 this week. I'm kidding. You can check it out for yourself if you have Apple Music Classical, an app that is powered by, yet separate from, the Apple Music app. It'll be updated every Monday, according to Mac Rumors. You can find it on the Apple Music Classical home tab. While you can take Apple Music for a ride in your Rivian, don't hold your breath for CarPlay. Apple Insider highlights an interview between The Verge and Rivian CEO R.J. Scaringe. While he says he thinks the world of Apple and that the two companies have a great relationship, expecting Rivian to let people install CarPlay on its cars would be like expecting Apple to let people install Windows on its computers. Of course, people can run Windows on Apple computers, but all right. His contention is that the experience would be disjointed. According to the report, Scaringe's argument is that users have to switch out of CarPlay to control car functions. For example, if you're in CarPlay and want to open the front trunk, he said, you have to leave the application and go to another interface. Apple Insider points out that that's only true for CarPlay today, not the whiz-bang full-dash CarPlay Apple first teased over 2 years ago. You know, somehow it feels like that was way less and way more than 2 years ago. Then again, last weekend feels like more than 2 years ago. I'd say time is funny, but I'm pretty far from amused. Anyway, don't expect CarPlay from Rivian. Enjoy the Hot 100 classical hits, though. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, 1Password Extended Access Management. Picture your company's security like a college campus. Well-planned paths to get from building to building, and grooves beaten into the ground that people actually use to get from building to building. Who can blame them? It's faster. Those planned paths are the devices your company hands out, the apps IT approves, the employee IDs you manage. The grooved paths are unmanaged devices your people bring in, the apps IT doesn't know they're using, and the IDs that really should have been deactivated a long time ago. The well-manicured paths are still well-manicured, but who the heck knows what's happening with that other stuff? That's where 1Password Extended Access Management comes in. It puts all those unmanaged devices, unknown applications, and rogue identities under your control, making sure every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional identity and access management and mobile device management miss. It is security for the way people work today. It's available now to companies with Okta and, coming later this year, to Google Workspace and Microsoft Entra. Check it out at onepassword.com/product/XAM. That's onepassword.com/product/XAM. Bloomberg ran an interesting piece this week about Apple TV Plus and content and cost. Boiling it way the heck down, it sounds like Apple is looking to bring production costs down for its shows and films. Maybe. Quoting part of the post, based on interviews with more than a dozen people, including former employees, current employees, and business partners, Apple Services boss Eddie Q has been having regular meetings with studio chiefs Zach Van Amberg and Jamie Ehrlich to go over budgets, pushing them to exert more control over spending on projects. Worth noting, none of those more than a dozen people are identified by name. Still, probably, Apple has said in the piece to be spending $50 million on Season 4 of the morning show just on the cast. Important, sure, but you still need writers and camera people and locations and gaffers. I assume they still use gaffers. I honestly don't know what they do. There's talk of cost overruns for severance and cost overruns for foundation. That one we actually knew about. Earlier this year, cast and crew were reportedly sent home, like from whatever country they were supposed to be shooting in to whatever country they live in, while the powers that be worked to bring production costs under control. Production was said to be underway again a few weeks later. The piece also points to the gobs of money Apple spent on Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, and Argyle, none of which came close to making back their production costs, unless they did. Bloomberg concedes outside criticism and analysis failed to capture the metrics that matter to Apple, in part because Apple shares so little data with the outside world. Apple invests in entertainment to sell more consumer devices, not to make money in Hollywood. Entertainment services like music, TV, and games generate billions of dollars in sales, but they also create a halo effect around the brand. They make you more likely to buy an iPhone. So, it sounds like Apple is looking to bring production costs down for its shows and films. Maybe. And finally today, a move from Meta worth keeping an eye on. 9to5Mac says the Facebook parent has applied for a patent, making it look like you've got eyes on the outside of a mixed reality headset. Apple calls the feature on its Vision Pro headset EyeSight. Facebook calls its patent embedded sensors and immersive reality headset to enable social presence. People have made so much fun of EyeSight, it's easy to forget that that's what that was about. As Apple explained it back in February, we developed EyeSight because we knew more than anything, if we were going to cover our eyes, that takes away much of what is possible when you connect with people. Getting that right was at the core of the concept of the product because we wanted people to retain those connections in their actual world. And Meta seems to think it's a great idea. So much so that they will steal it, except they're really not stealing. According to 9to5Mac, patent law doesn't allow companies to protect ideas, only methods for implementing those ideas. So companies can copy ideas and even get their own patents on methods of carrying them out. Apple's been known to do that a time or 12, so it would be tough for the company or its adherents to get too upset. And besides, just because Meta patents something doesn't mean that thing will ever make it out to the world. Patenting things without producing said thing is another thing Apple has been known to do a time or 12. Times 12. Times 12. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management. Learn more at onepassword.com/product/XAM. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.